I'm joined today by Colonel Douglas MacGregor.
Ukraine is falling apart. They are the ones who've taken horrific casualties. They are now dragging 16-year-old boys into the armed forces at gunpoint. They are still taking heavy casualties, and 75% of their casualties have been from artillery systems, strike systems such as rocket artillery, missiles, aviation, and artillery, all of those together, 75% of their casualties. And they can't protect themselves. They don't have the air defense. They don't have the expertise. That front in southern Ukraine is crumbling. It's falling apart. It's almost completely destroyed at this point. And how many casualties the Ukrainians have had is anybody's guess. I've heard from 157,000 dead up to over 200,000 dead. I've heard 400,000 casualties. I've heard 500,000 casualties. No one is telling the truth in the West. The only way you can find these things out is by talking to people on the ground. Ukrainians, Russians, and Poles are very helpful, and they will tell you the truth. And the American people haven't been told the truth, and they don't understand that we are not in a position to go to war with anyone today. We're not. We don't have munitions factories, armaments factories, turning out equipment 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The Russians do. Their factories are humming. There's no shortage of anything. In fact, what they've done recently, according to the most recent reports I've seen, is that they've walked back from some of the major overhead strikes. They have the capacity to fire 60,000 rounds a day, including rockets and missiles at the Ukrainians. 60,000 rounds. But they've been walking that back, and the Ukrainians who are watching this, and the Poles and others are saying the Russians are husbanding these for the coming offensive. And this offensive is coming. There are 700,000 troops all the way around Ukraine. Of that number, probably 250 to 300,000 are combat forces. In other words, the people that actually go forward and kill the enemy. They're going to move. And when they move, this steamroller will go forward as I've described. And they will annihilate what is left. And it doesn't make any difference what you send to the Ukrainians. They can't be trained fast enough. There are not enough of them left anymore that can do anything. If you're starting to drag 16-year-old boys off the street, away from their families, into uniform, what kind of a situation do you think you confront? It's terrible. And it's not necessary.